we say is needed.
You know, right on a kid, you get the hemostatic pressure dressings.
I would say if you are working within the direct threat realm, you have to have full PPE, helmet, and
okay.
that's what we're talking about. If you're expecting your team to go in, that's when you're saying, well, I mean, PPE. The other thing is your medical gear. Now, when you're going in there, you're probably thinking, I'm going to be treating victims. So you're not going to carry your IFAC. You're going to probably carry something you can swing over and get tourniquets to people, right? And I don't like backpacks because you would have to take them off, and it's like something I can have in front of me and get something very practical, right? But I can understand you saying, I don't have PPE, I'm still not going in, right? So law enforcement will go in and start clearing some areas. So for instance, let's say this is the place. There are reports of people being hit in several rooms. So law enforcement comes in and says, there are 5 injured here, right? They walked in, they cleared this room. They cannot say for sure the entire hotel is clear, so they can't tell everybody, come on in. But we know that this room is clear, and we know that they're injured here. They couldn't stop. If anything, they could have just dropped in a tourniquet and keep on moving, but that's as much as they can do because they've got to find that guy before he starts killing other people. So now you know that there is an opportunity there's a safety corridor in place because we know from that door to this room, there is no direct threat. But the threat can surface at any time, anywhere, right? Because we don't know where that guy or people, it could be more than one, is. So, but there's a window of opportunity. So now that's where the indirect threat phase comes in and says, okay, so if we can get EMS in here, we can start treating those 5, and maybe if there's another team that can come in, we can have them go to another room and so forth, till we get to those who we know for a fact that are injured. So that's where the rescue task force concept comes in. A task force by definition incorporates people from with different expertise or different components to do a particular task, right? So we're trying to combine EMS and law enforcement to do what he was saying. Okay. I got the medical gear, but I don't have the PPE, I don't have the law enforcement tactical expertise. Your job is to cover me, but I gotta know how to operate with you because I don't want to get all of us killed. So I'm gonna train with you so I don't do something foolish. I mean, when we train our EMS providers, we tell them that the law enforcement officer is the one in charge. If he says we move, we move. If he says we stay, we stay. Because he's the one who knows and he's the one who's protecting us, right? So the scene is not yet secured. As far as we know, there is a safety corridor from the outside in. We're already getting some reports of casualties, but it's a very fluid scene. We still don't know even what time it is. And we got other units arriving. So as other units begin to arrive, then we got a little bit more resources. Again, this is spanning over a few minutes in. First units in, went in, first ambulance in, set up a command post, staging area. Maybe we got a supervisor in, another first responder unit, firefighter. Okay. So what equipment and training do we need at this phase? Let's say that the threat is no longer a threat, but we don't know it. He committed suicide, we just don't know it yet. There's nobody shooting anymore. Statistics say that most incidents are over within the first 12 minutes. However, it is so, I mean, it's not just the disgruntled employee, it's not just a psych patient, it's not just a terrorist act. It's very complex to profile this kind of incident, the personality or the perpetrator. So, but based on statistics so far, we know that most incidents are over within 12 minutes. And fortunately or unfortunately, the perpetrator kills himself. Maybe the last bullet is, they know that they're going to be killed. Sometimes they will do foolish stuff to get killed, suicide by cop. They'll just go outside and point at them. They know that they're going to be shot. But that's a decision that person made before they went in there, or the minute they started shooting. So law enforcement knows what they're going to do, and the considerations that they will take, whether there are other threats or not. So we just know that the scene is not yet safe, it's not yet secured, but we're not hearing anybody shooting at us, so we got a window, a bigger window now to operate. What kind of equipment we need? We still need protective equipment, but maybe law enforcement can start helping us, right? Because maybe there's no threat anymore, we got some injured, maybe you can help us to put some tourniquets if available. And you can do that, and then fire rescue and EMS can go in, and that's where the tech training comes in. So bleeding control was for the bystander who was right there. Tech does that combination of tactical and medical. So we got bleeding control for the public. We got the LEFR, it's called Law Enforcement and First Response Tactical Casualty Care. That is a one-day course geared towards first responders. It is less heavy on the medical side. It is a 4-hour, this is half day of theory, half day of drills. That's basically it. And it is geared towards telling law enforcement this is how you can save your own life. One of the things I encounter is when you're talking to law enforcement officers, talking about medical training, they say, no, we don't do medical training. We don't do medical at all. That's where you guys come in. And we can argue at length whether law enforcement has a role in CPR, whether we need them to do some basic skills, some basic interventions like bleeding control and CPR and whatever. We can argue whether they will do it or not. But the only thing that we'll never be able to argue against is treating one of their own. So you're telling them, so let's say you have an injured colleague who's in that hot zone, EMS cannot attend to him. Who's going to do it? That's non-negotiable. So that is your opportunity. That's where you have to step in. This is not geared towards treating the rest of the injured. This is geared towards treating your own. And then, once you're at that, then they'll see, okay, sure, I can at least, give you a tourniquet. I'm still pointing at, I want them to keep pointing in the right direction with their gun, but at least they know what needs to be done and provide that assistance. And then for the medical side, we got the tech plans. For the public, the American College of Surgeons launched the Stop the Bleed initiative. It is available at bleedingcontrol.org, and what it seems like, it's like two different programs, but it's the same thing. The National Association of EMTs and the American College of Surgeons partnered a few years ago and launched the bleeding control program. Now the ACS has this web portal that allows facilitators to register those who have taken this training that is geared towards the public to kind of measure the impact if it wasn't been done. NAMT put that program out there available for anybody because basically it's more of an outreach thing. We need people to get involved with this. It's not just for EMS. But now we want to track some things, so the ACS set up this website. The registrations for international instructors will open soon. It is not yet available, but it will. I was just emailing them earlier this week, and I got a statement from them that it will. We have gained some momentum in a document from June 2015 basically said this is a call to action for every first responder to start planning how to improve their survival in case they're injured. It is like FEMA telling you plan a category 3 hitting you this summer, right? Drill it, let's do a tabletop, let's maybe do a drill with the hospitals. Same thing. Plan, and you look at the scenarios. Active shooter with denial of access. You're looking at some freakish incidents. You know, thinking about they are targeting you. I have had the opportunity, given this same lectures, I've had a very eerie experience, just like this one today. We're talking about bleeding control, and we had an incident 2 days ago. I gave this lecture, bleeding control lecture, to a group of law enforcement officers right after the Dallas shooting. And it's easy to say Columbine, Aurora, it's like, well, it happened this week, right? Let's forget about something that happened 10 years ago, or, you know, the kids in the school. Let's look at what happened yesterday. And it's like a, you know, deja vu or whatever you want to. But the Dallas incident, you know what happened in Dallas, right? The protesters. There was a bomb. Responders went to that, or shots fired. They went there, and when they were responding, the shooter targeted them. So it was a bait. So imagine you're responding to an incident and you are the target. That is what this incident is calling you to think about. Training. So it's a call to action. So if you need some justification, here's one good document from DHS saying, let's start thinking about this. It is, you know, it's not because it's US or not, it's basically a call to action. And when you look at the signings, you know, it's every US department of FBI and everybody else. So, as he mentioned, we focus, instead of care under fire, we branded it differently. Instead of saying care under fire, we're talking about direct threat. Tactical field care, we call it indirect threat. Same concept, just geared towards a different audience. Again, the circumstances what drives all this. And then the casualty evacuation is, it doesn't mean it will happen quickly. Sometimes the best decision is shelter in place. And so be it. So what equipment you need for that? Sometimes you already got this equipment for a long-term response. Maybe it's on your disaster catch. It's in another vehicle that is geared towards disasters. Now you're thinking, I want this vehicle responding to every mass shooting or every mass casualty, every active shooter response, and you stage it in a safe location because it will start to, you know, coordinate that integrated response. So in summary, what the Hartford Consensus does is it creates a call to action for us to provide training, equipment, in a plan to integrate the public, law enforcement, and EMS into one single response. And you as decision makers, and policy makers, influencers, and even first responders, or first receivers, because you can be saying, hey, we're waiting, this is what we're looking for when we're getting report of a mass casualty incident. This is what we should be looking for. The late Norman McSwain, he was the medical director for PHTLS. He was a deputy officer with New Orleans, and when they had a police officer, he would shot. He would always be there, and I had a friend who went to visit him, and unfortunately, the meeting couldn't happen because that that same day, an officer was shot and he was in the OR with him. But it was already planned that when that happened, you know, they would get that integrated response. So it's interesting how I mean, the foresight on how we should plan this together. Okay. So, all courses. So you got any questions on this? Again, I'm sure I repeated some of the things that has been mentioned. I just wanted to put it in the context of where it came from and why it is one thing called TCCC versus tech and where we fit all this. So we want you to become facilitators for this bleeding control program because it is a great, I mean, you'll see it now, it's a great program for your first responders alike. It's not just for the general public exclusively. However, keep in mind that it is geared, it is not incorporating the reason why the bleeding control program is not the program we want everybody else to be taken is because it doesn't incorporate the tactical aspect. It doesn't incorporate the circumstance. So we can talk about putting a tourniquet and packing a wound in less than half an hour, we'll be done. But if we would talk about leafer, it'll be, yeah, half an hour medical, the other 3.5 hours will be context. That's the entire difference. So that's why we have a separate program that does that. Okay. You want to take a little break?
Yeah. Go back through it, no?
So the program for use, how long does it take?
1 day.
Just 1 day.
Yeah. What I usually do is, if we're doing a TCCC all combatants, which is also a 1 day program, I usually run it 2 days. And the reason is, I would like to be able to do the theory first and do some simple skills and then be able to set up other scenarios on day 2. So we can do it in 1 day, but I would say 2 days allows for a better simulation and better debriefing because we will be running very tight on time if we were to do it in 1 day. Because it's not just a skill, it's a debriefing. So I always tell law enforcement officers, for instance, I'm not going to be telling them how to operate as a technical operator. I tell them, we do it differently.
Right.
And then they'll say, well, we could have done it this way. I have the vantage point. I am going to hit them if I want to. So if I'm seeing them, you know, sometimes our instructors, we all have comms, so we talk to each other. So if I want them to be able to do the medical part.
Right.
So I'm not going to put a scenario so hard they won't be able to do it. And if they're doing it, if they want to get out quickly, I'll tell my staff, don't let them get out. I want to see what they do. If they're doing it right, or if they're doing it, if their thought process at least makes sense, it's like, okay, we'll debrief it. When they're trying to do something foolish, like, I mean, forgetting about scene safety, just walking out, they're going to get hit. And but the thing is, nobody dies on the training.
Right.
I can show you a little clip in Colombia a couple of months ago. Somebody got shot and he stopped. He stopped. So what happened? I got shot.
Oh, and this is during the training.
Yeah. The thing is, it's not over until it's over.
Right.
So if you're not dead,
Then you should continue.
get the job done.
Right.
So if you're dead, you're not even gonna realize you're dead, right? So if you're shot and you're not dead yet, get the job done. You're not gonna say, okay, I'm shot. So there's a medical side to it as well. The sympathetic response that is going through you at that time will probably save you, spare you some vasoconstriction, severe vasoconstriction on the periphery. I mean, you're gonna get, the minute you say, okay, this is it, and that vasodilation kicks in, forget it. So mind and body will, you just quit. So you don't quit. So I can shoot you the center of the chest, and I know I hit you, keep on going, we'll debrief that, right? And so, would you do it differently? Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. Okay, good. We'll do it again in another scenario. we shouldn't have gone directly in. Okay, so argue it amongst yourself, because I'm not going to tell you how to operate. You're the expert on that, and every circumstance, every situation is a learning experience, because you don't have 2 houses the same, you don't have 2 buildings the same.
So, yeah. For the Leos, so they get the tactical training. They also will get packing the wound. They beyond the, as far as the law enforcement officers, they're allowed to do the wound packing and so forth.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's a part of the okay.
And wound packing, this is not a novel skill. It has been done in surgery forever, right?
Right.
You do wound packing on livers and solid organs, and it's like we're just applying a common principle. If this is the injury, and we're going to talk about that, and the bleeding is right here, what are you doing this? You're not pressing where the injury is.
Medical directors in the Caribbean, like supporting it.
That's a good question.
That's a question for.
I'm sure that from a medical standpoint, it is obviously yes. Let's stop that bleeding.
I mean, it's relatively new concept for the region, and so my concerns is just whether or not it's being embraced by the medical community.
I think that
For law enforcement officers to be doing it.
I think that it is trickling down on the law enforcement side. When you go to every law enforcement conference nowadays, there's a medical track. They're hearing about the use of tourniquets, so it's not they're not hearing from you for the first time. They know. Now there are some preconceived perceptions and connotations, and maybe old modus operandi that, sometimes you get some gung-ho medical providers who want to be SWAT operators, and they want to push it, but they're thinking the SWAT mentality. Oh, I want to go in. And you're like, no, you're not going in. So you got to shape that, because maybe you're burning that bridge. So you're talking to your counterpart and saying, I got this, I learned this, and we have a problem to fix, potential problem to fix. Let's focus on the problem, not on the process. So we need to stop that bleeding from one of your officers. We can do it 2 ways. I can give you the tourniquets, you put it on, or we can put one of our guys in. Let's drill in both and see which one works better. I have SWAT officers who tell me, I'll carry him out. Sure, let's practice that. Let's give me 2 hours of your next drill, and we'll incorporate. Let's say you're drilling an entry. Let's incorporate your number 1 guy got hit. The rest of your stack got in, neutralized the threat. You got 1 injured, and I'm gonna say that the ambulance is staged right there. Let's do it. Let's do that. And let's play it out. And you'll see, don't laugh out loud when you see it. Just jot everything down and ask him what happened. This guy's heavy, okay? Or I couldn't negotiate some, okay? Or they couldn't even figure out who was doing what, who was covering who. Just simple stuff. So you just demonstrating them that, okay, you'll bring him out, we gotta train him. And here's a program that tells you how to do it and lets you practice it. Call it whatever you want to call it. It's just an opportunity to discuss the topic from their standpoint, not from your standpoint. Now you'll say, here's my take on it. How about we do it this way? Then you open that channel of communication.
Thoughts from you, Dr. Byron?
We had a police chief on St. Croix who actually went out to an event and he got shot. And having that tactical tourniquet was very helpful in saving his life. He's actually promoting that device right now in the law enforcement community, not just in the Virgin Islands, but in the U.S. And they're doing very well with that. But that was an example of forward thinking on his part. They introduced it in the VIPD on St. Croix. It so happened that the chief responded to a burglary in progress that was in his area. Or I think they may have been staking out the home because it had had several burglaries in the recent past. And he was on the scene. He got shot, the actual police chief. He eventually retired just recently, had reconstruction surgery on the arm and so forth, but that turning saved him.
So I'll tell you, up to now, police have a minimalist approach to medical care. I mean, even on the cardiac side, in Barbados, we try to suggest to them that they do CPR and have AEDs. And even on the trauma side, in terms of actually doing trauma care, minimum trauma care, bleeding control, you know, they've been quite reluctant because, as they put it, they have a limited training budget. And if they have a choice between training to shoot or training in police procedures and medical stuff, the police procedures think of it all the time. So they have limited intervention in terms of that. But what we've done, though, we managed to sell it to them in terms of what you said, in terms of protecting their own. So their strategic task force team, they've trained some of their guys as EMTs, and they do co-training with the Army in terms of medical care. So that's a special unit that does response to active shooters, that type of situation. They wear different uniforms, so they haven't bought in. They're almost like a paramilitary unit in the police. So they do most of that response. I don't know if it's the same in here, where you have a special unit which deals with shootings and
Yeah,
stuff.
we do have a special unit,
Yeah.
but I don't think they're bought in the medical care yet either.
Yeah, but the regular police on the street, they don't have much.
What are your thoughts on wound packing for pre-hospital providers
Oh, yeah.
and so on and so forth?
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on that,
That's
Dr.
the way to
Byron?
go, but I'll tell you, I mean, packing, you mean with the hemostatic agents, or do you mean?
Any gauze.
Yeah,
Any
so
gauze.
gauze is fine, and that's done. The hemostatic agents are costly.
So let me
Yeah.
answer you something you mentioned. Case in point, next September, we're starting to train 800 state marshals. On our preliminary meetings earlier this year, I said training budget is limited. Odds are some of those 800, a significant amount of those 800, this will be their only training opportunity other than shooting qualification, firearm qualification. So if this is the only training, and they're willing to give us 4 hours to do something medically related, I'm honored. Thank you for that. This is not about me. This is about you. But thank you for considering it so important. But if this is the only training that they will do, what else can we incorporate to this training that would make it worthwhile for them on their regular job? So I would flip this around and say, how can we fit in the medical side to any of their regular drills? So if they're doing this one drill, can you give me a learning stage